This is Leith Anderson here with Bobby Grace in his hideaway studio in Highlands, North Carolina. And what we're here for today is to really get acquainted with all of the variations in the line and all of the customization options, and to really get familiar with it, because we're picking up this line for the putting lab, and we want to make sure that we have every possible option and we know what to do with them. So we're going to get Bobby to run through the line and show us just exactly what we're doing.
Let me start with one of our go-to blades. This, I call it a go-to blade because, first of all, this, what we call the switch hitter, it actually has a radial face on both sides. It's a right and left putter. This putter has, the wonderful characteristic is the sightline setup is not only parallel, it's perpendicular. You've got what looks like a big H, and it helps for alignment quite a bit. The unique part of this putter is we call it the switch hitter CG. This is one of the only putters that's actually drilled right in both center of gravities. It might look like a plain putter, but don't let it fool you. This thing here is solid as all get out because of the CG connection of the shaft. One of the advantages of this putter, and why I use it as a go-to putter, especially if a guy has a problem of collapsing his hands, he has too much wrist movement. Let's say I can't get him in the claw to stop his wrist movement and engage his shoulders. Well, this putter here, it hits the ball early because of the amount of onset. So if a guy has a left pull problem, I absolutely go to this to see if I can straighten him out for his aiming and his directional. So another thing is, believe it or not, you're going to hear this from me first, I hope. People putt both ways. They actually putt, more than not, you'd be surprised, they'll putt when they've lost it inside 4 or 5 feet, and I mean the terrible Y word, the yips, and they can't continue inside 5 feet. What happens is they'll go to the left side and finish the shorter putt off from the other side. And what that does, it sort of like reboots the computer. You don't have a yip or a muscle memory on that side, and you'd be surprised how much better you could putt that way if you have really bad trouble with the short putts. So this plain looking little putter has to stay on the line. It's a great putter. It comes in a little heavier than normal. It's 375 grams. So as you cut it down shorter, it still has good feel. Okay, that's the switch hitter CG, stands for center of gravity. Now, the next blade putter I would say is one of my favorites, is the 18 blade. This one here, as you see from the balance of it, obviously the shaft is connected all the way in the heel, so the toe fall is a good bit. I mean, that looks to me, if you're looking from about, we call our toe fall 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. 3 o'clock is face balanced, 6 o'clock is completely toe down. Well, this is right about 5 or 5:30. I mean, it's way down there. It's got a good bit of this going on. Well, now don't let that scare you to death. It doesn't mean if you're more of a square to square, you couldn't putt with this, because you do influence the putter more than the putter influences you. However, when Leith puts you on, for instance, the Quintic or Sam Putt Lab and tracks that path, you'd be surprised sometimes how this putter can influence it a good bit. So this one here is a good heel and toe sloped model. In other words, it's got a lot of heel and toe to widen the sweet spot more than normal. It has a big flange for a blade. I call it a blade. I had one of the tour players says, well, what makes it a blade? Why would you call that a blade? I said, well, first of all, I call it the 18 blade because the original one was made by Terry McCabe in the 70s, and it was called the TPA 18, I think. So I gave him a little respect and called it the 18 blade. I call it a blade because we have an F18 that's a mallet. So it is pretty much a hybrid. You're right, it's got a little bigger flange, but it is, to me, a blade. It putts very, very well. And if you notice this, we've added another sight line on top that pretty much connects with the yellow or gold sight line, that what it does is it tells you if your hand position is at the same address position as it should be. So this can get you to set up consistently every time, lie-wise. Now, obviously, the sight lines in the back flange is something that we've had for a while, but that top line matching up with the center line is a great help, and I think you'll see that to be a benefit. We're going to be putting that into more and more putters, as you'll see. Okay, Now, the, the all famous, you know, we call this the Ping Anser style. Yes, it's the Tour 3 Diamond. We call it the 3 Diamond because there's 3 diamonds on the back of the neck. It denotes the size or length of the hosel. This is what we call our standard Anser style hosel height, and this gives you, as you see, a little bit different balance than that 18 blade. This gives it to you at about 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock for the toe fall. This is probably the most famous design in the world that every putter line has to have. We again have put a top line, sight line here, and that's a recent one. It sort of looks like a Jordan Spieth putter. He only has one top line, but we offer different sight lines. So if you have a custom need, you just let us know. The adjustable weights allow from 360 grams all the way up to about 385 grams with all the different densities. And of course, the faces that we have in here, we have the gray polymer, which is mid-firm. We have Tour Firm, which this one is. This has got a TF on it. This one's the harder polymer. And then we've got the aluminum radial face. These are for all different sounds and feels for different golf balls that you may be playing with that you're used to. Okay, so that's the Tour 3 Diamond. Now we have the Low Pro putter is really one of our famous ones that David Ogren won on the PGA Tour with it when we first designed this thing. The first rendition of this Low Pro was in 1996. He won the Texas Open, defeating Tiger Woods and Jay Haas in a playoff. That's a pretty good start for this model. This model has been in our line ever since, has some different variations, a triplane sole added to it, adjustable weights added to it, and a nice sight line in the back flange. The shaft, as I discussed earlier, allows you to face balance it. Now I could even bend a shaft that can have the toe fall a little bit. All I have to do is trim the bottom of that shaft and push it down further, so what the angle of that shaft does, instead of points to the center of the face, it moves in towards the heel, and thus the toe falls down by the balance. A lot of myths and mysteries that Leith is discussing in his putter company is most people think that the amount of weight on the toe pulls the toe down. That's far from the truth. It's the actual shaft angle and where it intersects the axis of the face. If it's center, it's face balanced. If it's here, it's toe down a little bit. If it's here, it's toe down a little bit more. If it's way over here, the toe falls quite a bit. This is a cool model because I can monkey with how much toe fall we have depending on what kind of stroke somebody has. Okay? That's the Low Pro. It's a very popular model. This one we call the crossbow because we weren't allowed to use the word bullseye. And you know why. It's been taken for a long time. We call this our bullseye on steroids, but it's called the crossbow. It's a great putter with a very, very heavy heel and toe flange. Now look at this. No offset whatsoever. This one is just like the original putter that was on the tour for so many years. But what we've done is added in all of our technology. Not just the 2 sight lines to line up with, but the radial face, the adjustable weights, the triplane sole, and as you see, look at that, the toe actually falls almost all the way down because of where that shaft goes in right up front. This is a very unusual putter. I use this putter for somebody that I know does not like offset. Their offset creates their left putt. This is one of those go-to putters that I like that has no offset. And you got to understand, the onset putter that I showed you earlier, the switch hitter, that's for people that really have a problem going left. Well, if you don't have much of that, you got to hone it in with the lasers. You can use one that just has no offset, and they'll be hitting this putter a whole lot straighter. So that's the crossbow. That's a great putter. It's milled out of 303 stainless. It's a very high quality putter, obviously made in USA. All right, so that's the crossbow. One of my favorites that is not our fastest seller, but I'll never pull it off the line because I just love this putter so much, and the guy that's the better player that came from, say, the Wilson 8802 or the design by Arnold Palmer like I did years ago. I putted with a design by for 11 years in competition, played in the US Amateur with it, the British Amateur, had a lot of great success with it. This was my favorite putter for more than a decade. So what I did was I made a couple of handmaids and welded on the hosels and blended it in, shaped the back flange, everything. When I found the best looking one, I held it off and sent it off to be digitized. So now if you look at this, it has milling lines all over this putter. This one's done on a 5-axis milling machine that actually is milled in one piece, and it looks absolutely fabulous. It's sort of like the oil painting and the print. You have to paint the oil painting before you make the print of the oil painting. Well, this is the print of the oil painting. So the 6313 with perpendicular and parallel lines for lineup. This looks like a very plain Jane putter, but don't let it fool you. With a radial face, it feels absolutely amazing. It rolls the ball great, and you can line this putter up with these lines quite well. People putt the 18 blade, they fall in love with it. They putt this and they're surprised at how this competes with the feel and the roll. That's the 6313. All right. Now we go into some mallet putters, and here's one of the, I call these the big putters. I get people in the shop sometimes, and they look at this putter and they go, oh, that's too big, I can't look at that. And if they have a putting stroke that's a little challenged and they can't hit the sweet spot very often, and I mean the sweet spot right in here, this putter here has such a big advantage because we've widened the sweet spot all the way across the face by the inertia increased from the design of multi-metal and placement of that metal. If you see on tour the Fang putter. Everybody has those on tour. That's the wings that are in the back. But nobody makes it like we do, where we have aluminum up front and brass in the back, and it's actually CNC milled and married together, as you see. Well, this deep and wide weighting, what that does is increases the sweet spot from here all the way out here. You can actually, if you ever get in front of one of these putters, you hit the putt all the way out here, and you're going to find out the putter never wavers open at all and doesn't lose any of its energy, because the moment of inertia on this is about 8,700. To give you an idea what that means, moment of inertia, they measure it by grams cubic centimeters squared. Okay, that's just the mathematical process of analyzing where we have put the metal around the mass ring. Well, what this does is it increases the sweet spot, but it also stabilizes the putter from off-center hits till it doesn't do this at impact. See, because if it does, it'll go to the right. But this one doesn't. This one is so stable that it's incredible. We've got little sight lines here, and the same thing goes here, to where you can actually see the two sight lines line up, so you're lining the hands up with the same lie position each and every time. So this one has great lines, it's face balanced, it's got the radial face, it's got the triplane sole. This is one of our best-selling putters. And the reason why we named it the Night and Day is because when we put it on the roll board against the Odyssey 7, it's like night and day. All right, now this here is one of my favorites. It looks very, very unusual. All right, I'll pull the plastic off for you a little bit here, because you want to get a good glimpse at this one. I don't think you'll ever see another one of these out there in the marketplace. This is our switch hitter F18. Now, this is a mallet putter that's quite sizable, and it's drilled right in the center of gravity, so it's super solid. And it has a radial face on both sides. And yes, it's USGA conforming, of course. Now, the 4 adjustable weights and the triplane sole, it's got a lot of technology going on. This is not for everybody, this putter. This putter is for the person that needs a massive amount of onset. And I call those people the collapsible wrist people, or the people that just have the pulls. I have to really work with somebody that is putting with this, because they not only need a little lesson going into it, but they'll enjoy when they hit this putter that they will not go left. If anything, it'll start going right, and they'll hone it back to dead center. But this thing here is a very popular putter called the Switch Hitter F18, and it's got a high moment of inertia. It's milled out of solid blocks of 6061 aircraft aluminum and a hard coat anodized, and a wonderful sight line across the top. It really is a great putter. Okay, now the F18 that we looked at earlier, that we drilled holes for, this one here is pretty much the cat's meow. This one is, it's got the, let's see, a 7500 MOI. To give you an idea of MOI numbers, when the 2 ball came out, it's 3645. The 2-ball MOI number is 3,600. This thing's 7,500. The night and day is 8,700. So we've got putters that are way, way higher in the MOI and bigger sweet spots. Now this one here is a wonderful sight line for alignment. Triplane sole, 5 adjustable weights. You can make this putter into anything, and of course the face comes off so you can switch different densities of feels for different golf balls or green speeds. This is really the putter of the future. It really is. It's pointed right to the center of gravities, so it's much more solid than a regular putter. When you hit this, you'd be surprised how solid it goes every single time. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be playing with this one at Augusta National on Sunday when the greens are 14, but maybe bring your blade for that particular day. Anyhow, I've got one more, and it's the Fat Man. Here is a great putter. It's got a good shape, good size. When we first made the Fat Lady putter was about this size, and everybody thought it was huge. Well, look at that. It's no longer huge looking because everything's gotten so large. Well, this one's got the stair step design, which is, again, an alignment aid just from the stair step. And then we've got what I call a ski slope, which is a T-bar sight line for, again, your perpendicular and your parallel sight lines that help you get right honed onto that ball. You should be putting with a line on the ball, by the way, so you can line up the line to the line, not worry about aiming it properly. Now, triplane sole for putting from off the fringe because it has very little drag. That's what the triplane sole is really for. The 4 adjustable weights, it goes from 350 to 385. And face balance putter, we can also change the balance of this just by ordering different shafts. And the MOI is not huge on this, but it's very good. It's actually out here. That sweet spot's pretty good size for a normal size mallet. The reason why guys go to this is mainly some people don't like a large putter. They just won't look at it. Well, I get that. This one's very, very solid. It's also easy to look at. It's pleasing to the eye. That's the Fat Man putter, and that's one of my better seller mallets as well. Okay. I think that wraps up Bobby Gray's putters for 2019. And I'm sure you'll be treated well when you get fitted properly. All right.